Hello, I'm Lisa Tyler. I'm your host of Senior Connections. This is our monthly show where we talk about all things related to the elderly in Muskegon County, their caregivers, and anybody else who loves them. We're here to try to help you navigate what can be a very confusing whirlwind of services and programs that serve older adults in our area. And it could range from anything from Medicare to health classes to what we're going to talk to today, companion care providers and other ways that we try to keep our older adults safe and in their homes for as long as possible. So I'm excited today to have with us again after a couple of years my coworker, Mike Fields. Mike, welcome. Glad to have you back. He is the manager of the Care Connections program, which is one of the newer programs at Senior Resources. It's been around for a little over 2 years now, but we're going to talk a lot more about how it's grown, how it's changed in that time. And I think when we had you here before, we were just a couple of months into it.
Just launching.
We just had our first clients in that. So now that we're here in early 2019, it's a good time to revisit it and see what's new. So tell us a little bit about, a reminder of viewers who may or may not have seen us in late 2016. What your background is and what brought you to Senior Resources?
Well, my wife and I had both worked in the senior business for a while. We had a consulting service, and we really just enjoyed it. We worked a lot with housing, with companion care and home care, things like that, with PERS systems, personal emergency response systems. So a good background in it, and when Pam and Senior Resources were looking at putting together a program to try to touch on some of those unmet services, unmet needs in the community. We had talked about companion care, things like that, and so yeah, it was a natural fit that we could start up a companion care service and push it along and see if we couldn't help more people in our community.
Great. So that actually is, we just were discussing it with our full staff just recently, that this all came out of strategic planning that was done by the Senior Resources team. It was when I was just new there, really, I think my second month in 2015, that we had a group come together and talk, as you said, about what's missing out there in the community, where do we see gaps, and is it something Senior Resources can step in? That's not always what we want to do. We don't always want to be the ones doing that, but it was said, we've got all these great programs that for all these qualifying, if you're low income, nursing home eligible, all of that, but for people who had some funds, who could privately pay for things, there wasn't a lot out there. So that's kind of where all this came from, as I recall. And so it is a private pay service. So Mike, let's talk a little bit about that. What makes this different from the other things that we offer at Senior Resources and that maybe are out there in the community?
Sure. And what Senior Resources is phenomenal at what they do. Senior Resources was a program to work with waiver eligible individuals in the community to help those that were in the greatest need, like you said, whether it's physical, financial. But that's not all encompassing of the needs of the community. There are other people who do have means, who just need a little extra help in the home, and that's kind of where we're plugged into. We fit that need. We do an excellent job with those in financial need, those who have high physical needs, medical needs, things like that. So how do we help those that don't fit that bucket, that area there? And the companion care program's private pay. They do pay for the service, which a lot of people they need help and they can, and they don't mind getting if they can get good people in to help them. The goal of Senior Resources, the mission is the same across the board. In that we want to be good stewards. We want to help the people in the community stay at home as long as it's healthy and safe to do so. Right. And so how do we help those safely, help them to be safe in their own home where they want to be? How do we plug in that service? The companion care program, is very activity based. We wanted to also touch base on that social isolation piece that we're hearing so much about. We're a social animal, and we don't do well when we're not socializing with other humans. So we very engaging. Get in and we have activities we do. It's kind of neat. Some of the activities recently, one of the care providers, her and the gal that she works with, they volunteer at Noah's Project. So she goes out there a couple days a week, and one of those days they go to the Noah Project and they volunteer. So, you know, what a cool way to, you know, to help fit that social aspect. And, you know, she's more of a friend. And, you know, yes, the family's very happy that we're there, that we're helping, we're you know, an extra set of eyes and ears. But yeah, what the program does for her is phenomenal, in that she can get out and work with animals and do the things she enjoys that she wasn't getting before.
Right. So one of the things I think that does make our program different from others is that it is activity-based and it's not medical. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, there are a lot of organizations that do a phenomenal job helping with the ADLs, activities of daily living, the bathing, the showering, things like that, you know, toileting. We didn't want to go in and take those services. Those needs are filled very well. But we really wanted to touch base on the social side of it, the social engagement, and get people back to doing the things they love to do. Holiday times are a big stressor, especially for women, because there was so many things that women like to do around the holiday season. Get cards out to family, bake cookies, get them out to people in the community, decorating. And as they age, they kind of lose touch with a lot of it. They're not able to bake like they used to. They're not able to see as well, so they don't get the cards out to the family like they used to. So it creates added stress. So if we can go in and help with you know, just those little things. So let's address envelopes so we can get the cards out. You know, let's go down and get the boxes out of the basement that have the decorations and get those back out. Those little things help relieve that stress. It's engaging, and they just feel better about themselves. And, you know, they're engaged in their lives again, where they had lost that, and they knew they had lost that. So high stress, which they didn't need with everything else that was going on in their life.
So it really is more a friendship-based thing. So talk a little bit about, I know, but our viewers might not, how you match people up, because we've got paid companions, right? So talk a little bit maybe about how you try to find the right people to work in the program, because that's so critical. I think it's one of the hallmarks of what we do.
For me, I think that's my greatest addition to the program, is trying to put the right people together. You know, I talk to the families mostly. Sometimes the individuals will contact me, but a lot of times it's a family member. You know, a lot of families don't live in the same areas they grew up nowadays. So mom and dad are here in the West Michigan area, and they're living on the east side of the state, or, you know, maybe another state. They come home and visit, and they see, oh boy, you know, I don't know how mom can do this, or gosh, I wish I could get somebody in here. I talk to the family, try to get a good background on the individual, what they did in life, their likes, their dislikes, their hobbies, you know, those things that made them who they were. And then I always let them know that I have to go visit them in their home. I want to go into their environment and get a feel for who they are. You know, talk with them, and we don't have to talk anything about companion care. Just talk. Let's have some conversations, and trying to get a good feel for who that person is. And then once I got a good feel that way, I try to find one of the care providers that they would enjoy having around. Somebody like-minded, like interests. You know, I don't want to send a care provider in who's maybe very outgoing and kind of maybe a little boisterous to somebody who's very reserved. Let's match those personalities. So I feel, like I said, that's my greatest addition to the program is trying to find that mix, because once I find somebody that they'll enjoy having around, it's really easy at that point.
Right.
They just enjoy each other, and they find things to do together.
Absolutely. So talk to us a little bit about, so obviously we've got, how many people do we have now that are providing the service? How many?
I have 14 care providers right now.
And so some of them have been with us for quite a while.
Yes.
And then we've got some newer ones. So what are you looking for? Because we're almost always looking for people because they're part-time, right? So
Sure.
Talk to us a little bit about what you're looking for and what's in it for the care provider.
Well, the two things we look for are a passion for working with seniors and people in general, and the compassion to work with seniors. If they have that passion and compassion, the rest is all
Falls into
learnable,
place.
and everything else, is easy at that point. We do have some training that we do for folks who may not have worked with seniors in the past. Try to give them an idea of what this individual is going through, what stage they're at in their life. Some may have some cognitive decline, physical limitations, things like that. But there are always core things that you look for with seniors. The hydration is huge. We always want to make sure everybody's drinking plenty of water, not pop, juice, water. Seniors hate water. I don't know what it is, but
I will not be one of them.
it's tough to get them to drink enough water. But we know if they don't stay hydrated, it has a cascading effect that leads into ER visits, and it's not good for them health-wise. Back to the mission, healthy and safe at home. This is part of them staying healthy. Good nutrition, good med management, believe it or not, sleep patterns play a big role there. But any of those things, I can start teaching them how to look for those. We don't go in, well, how'd you sleep last night? No, in casual conversation, as you're working together, get a feel for these things. Keep an eye out for those. So as long as they have the passion and the compassion to do it, the rest really comes pretty easy.
Right. So can you share us a little bit? I'm trying to think of some of the stories that I've learned about them. I remember one, I think it was she's not with us anymore because she moved on, but we had a younger care provider, right? Riley, was that?
Riley.
Was she the one who we had a lady who really hadn't been out of her house, and her family was thinking they were going to have to place her somewhere else, and then she really am I making the right match with Riley? Can you share a little bit about that story? Because it's a past one, I know, without sharing details that would give it away.
Yeah.
But
Riley was a companion care provider. She was phenomenal. Great kid.
And she was, what, like 20?
Younger.
Oh.
She was like 19. And, when I interviewed her, I'm wondering, okay, and I'm looking, like I said, I'm looking for that passion and compassion. And if you look at her resume, I mean, it was like everything we're looking for. There's a ton of experience, and the experience that I'm seeing is showing that passion for working with other people, and and that compassion to go out of her way to do the little things that make their lives so much better. But then I sit down across from her, and she's a young kid. It's like the experience didn't kind of match her. You get to talking to her, just a special kid. And she was great at working with people, and she had come with like 7 years experience. As a 19-year-old, she'd been doing this since she was 12 years old. So, it was kind of a no-brainer. She's the type of person we wanted. And yeah, she did have a client that the family was very concerned about. She had really gotten off track in a lot of ways. Nutrition, hydration, doctor's visits, up all night type of thing, hoarding, to the point where they really were thinking that a secured environment was going to be the best fit for Mom at this point. And Riley went in and started working with her, and the family was a little concerned at first because Riley was young and it didn't seem like the right thing. But these two, they were on the same wavelength. They were right for each other, and it started out slow. They started doing little things. I think it started with flower and gardening magazines. Finally got her to open up a little bit, and start talking, and kind of learning where she's at. And then they started going outside and working in the gardens and with the flowers. And then they started venturing down the road a little bit. And during this time, Riley's really getting her to drink a lot more water. Her meds were being managed better. Her nutrition was better. She was eating timely, nutritious meals. And then they were adding the exercise. They were getting out, exercising, and then they were engaging with neighbors, and they would walk. But it started off with next door, getting down the block. Yeah. Within 6 months they were doing 1.5 miles. They were walking down and engaging with people, and it really turned her around. She was doing extremely well. I think it was after about 6 months where we were actually able to get her back in her own home. you know, she was doing well. She was socially engaged again. She was healthy. She was happy, and the family was, you know, they were so thankful that somebody like Riley could come in and do that when it really was. They were really worried that they were going to have to move her in to a secured location so she wouldn't wander and things like that. So that's that social engagement and,
success story.
you know, just engaging them back in their lives, and, you know, starting off with the little things. It helped that I was able to find out that flowers were probably a good passion to start with, and but yeah, phenomenal. And Riley since has moved on. She was done here in Muskegon at MCC College and moved on to her 4-year program. So unfortunately, I don't have her anymore, but she is, you know, she's going into a field where she'll be able to work with seniors.
Wonderful. It's good to hear that she'll be doing that. So talk to us a little bit about some of the requirements for the program. Is there any minimum or maximum number of hours somebody needs to be enrolled, or what requirements are there?
The only real requirement is it's 2 hours per visit. You know, it's hard to send somebody out to a location and get anything done in less than 2 hours. 2 hours is even pretty tight a lot of times. If you go out even just to make a meal, you figure by the time you start, eat, clean up after a meal, I mean, 2 hours could be eaten up pretty quick. And then are we able to do anything else, you know? So there is a 2-hour minimum per visit. There's no minimum number of visits. We have some folks we work maybe once a week. Some folks we do on an as-needed, so we might work with them once or twice every couple of weeks. We have some folks that we work with 5 days a week. Okay. You know, some people that need a lot more. But yeah, the only minimum is 2 hours per visit. Okay. We do offer 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. You know, that typically covers, you know, all of the meals areas. You know, maybe getting up in the morning, getting to bed at night type of thing. But yeah.
Do most of our participants have just one care provider then, or some of them, if they've got more hours, I would guess, because we don't have our care providers really work more than usually 20 hours or so, right?
Yeah, the care providers, it's all part-time. It's 20 hours or less a week, typically. And when I do meet with an individual and we decide on the care provider, we would like to keep one person there. We would like to have that closeness, them be able to develop a relationship with one person. Somebody who needs a lot or is looking for a lot more hours, we may have a second person go in. But primarily we try to keep one-on-one. And it seems to work out best that way. That way they can really develop a good relationship. They have a good feel for who each other are, what each other need, and, you know, we can adjust times and things like that, you know, because we do transport to doctor's appointments and grocery shopping.
And that's a newer addition that
we added that this last year.
Right,
Yeah.
so there's some limited transportation. Is it using the participant's vehicle or the care provider's vehicle, or?
We can use either.
Either one?
The thing is we want to make sure the vehicle is reliable, is appropriate. You know, my care providers, we do inspect their vehicles, things like that. The vehicles are good. We can use the participants' vehicle, but once again, then I have to make sure I do my diligence and get a copy of the registration and
safe for our staff as well.
and test drive the car, make sure it's safe, the brakes, things like that. So we can do either or, but yeah, that's been a great addition.
I imagine, because I remember talking to somebody a year ago, and they were really excited that we were thinking about doing that. So right now, we're a weekday only, correct? Not weekends?
Yes.
Because our people have to have some time off, as do you.
The great thing about that is the people we've been able to bring in as care providers, for the most part, are retired. Most of them are retired, and they're not ready to be retired. They still want to get out and do things and work with people. They have a passion for working with kids and seniors, so they make the ideal person, but a lot of them are very busy on weekends. So the weekends tend to turn away some people, but and a lot of times with seniors, the families are there with them on the weekends, so not as big a need there.
Right, let's talk about the families a little bit. What do you hear from the family members who usually are the ones who have engaged you, right?
Yeah.
Usually they're the ones that have said mom or dad, and especially we're in January, we've just had holidays.
Yeah.
Do you see a spike in that after?
Typically, yes.
That people are all of a sudden now they're hearing about us and they're calling you to say, okay, now I can tell mom or dad or aunt or uncle.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
So what do you hear from families about that, especially some that have been in this for a while?
The families are very grateful. It's an extra set of eyes and ears, to help mom and dad. Where they were having to take time out, they're juggling, they're still working, a lot of them still have kids at home, the sandwich generation. Mm-hmm. They're caught between a lot of things. If they can have somebody take over a couple of days for them and give them that respite, so to speak, from having to make sure mom or dad or both are okay, that day. They're getting their meals, they're getting some help with housekeeping and changing beds, things like that. It's just such a relief to them, and the care providers, the families, the individuals love the care providers, and it's like, gosh, mom can't stop talking about Riley, or mom can't stop talking about, Cheryl. It's been fantastic.
Right. Well, I would imagine that it's been a big relief, and I remember talking to a couple of people. We had a couple very early on, and she ended up passing, as I recall, but I remember meeting with them to do a story, and his wife had a stroke, and so the husband was having to back off of all the activities that he'd done, and he just wanted some time to be able to go out with his buddies and golf for a couple of hours,
Lunch.
And he was a deacon in the church, and get back to some of that, some things that were really important to him.
Yes.
And we know from everything that we've experienced with caregivers how overwhelming that burnout is, so detrimental. And so it's really important to them that they get that little bit of respite and knowing
Yes.
their loved one is in safe hands, and then being nurtured and cared for and having fun, because they have a lot of fun, don't they?
They have a blast.
They've done things like decorate bags for kids' food basket, they play games, they do crafts, the gardening, and then they do, even though we don't do the medication and all, the medical things, we do like cook alongside of them sometimes, right? Where maybe families aren't sure that they're safe to do some of that, or they just need a little help, but they could cook together, do some very light housekeeping. We're not in there to be their housekeeper, though.
Right.
It's usually doing a little
They're
bit
partners.
with them.
They're partners that work together to get those tasks done. But you're absolutely right. The caregiver burnout, working in this industry, we know, caregivers, they do. The caregiver burnout is, the numbers are scary. Giving somebody caring for a loved one with high needs is huge. Just giving them a break. If it's to get away, to go have lunch, if it's just to go in the bedroom and have a nap and not have to worry, if they're going to fall, if they're going to wander, things like that. You mentioned the gentleman, he was caring for his wife, and he had given up everything in his life. His golf leagues, his church, he used to have lunch with buddies once a month. All of that was gone, and that's tough. It was starting to affect his health. He wasn't active. So getting out, doing some things so he can stay healthy to care for her.
Right.
That's huge. We have one story that's kind of funny. We do have one gal, one thing that she really missed, and adding the transportation was able to touch on this finally when we added the transportation program. She missed going out for Friday fish dinners. She hadn't been able to do it in a lot of years, and her care provider and her, they get together, they go out for Friday fish dinners, and they have a blast.
Are there any limitations on who can be enrolled in the program? Cognitive? I mean, do we have people who have dementia, or is it kind of maybe milder?
We have some that are, from anywhere from mild dementia to advanced, and there are limitations. Like I said, the program's designed to keep them healthy and safe. If I don't feel we can keep them healthy and safe at home, I try to, not only just let them know that we're not the right program, but give them direction to the programs that can help, and help guide them through the process there. So yes, there are some limitations, but for the most part, we work with all levels of cognitive decline. We have some pretty advanced physical limitations, but healthy and safe is the key words there.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about some other aspects of Care Connections, because Care Connections is kind of an umbrella for private pay programs that we have. So this is the big one,
Yes.
certainly, and one of the newer ones. But let's talk about one of my favorites, because I'm a former journalist, Senior Perspectives. So, and for those who don't know, Mike mentioned working with his wife. He works with his wife in the very same office because the lovely and talented Michelle Fields is the editor and publisher of this fabulous award-winning national publication. And I know we've talked about this before. This is, if you don't get this, it's available in our 3-county area, but we're talking Muskegon, all kinds of different places, and you can always get a subscription to it as well. But let's talk a little bit about, just real briefly in the minutes we have left, about what's new with this, because we've had Senior Perspectives, it's 25 years this year, I think, right?
Yes.
Which is phenomenal. So it's in Muskegon, Oceana, Ottawa counties, but we just expanded out a little bit. So talk to us about that.
It's been pretty exciting. We've talked to a lot of different people that said, wow, we really need to have this paper in other areas. And we've talked about it for a couple of years, and we had an opportunity. We partnered with some organizations over in the Kent County area. We just put out our 2nd edition of the Senior Perspectives Kent County. Now, Senior Perspectives Kent County is completely separate from the Lakeshore. They will look exactly the same, except for when we have our organization picture on the front. But same paper, but it works with the organizations and nonprofits over in the Kent County area so that it's a very local flavor. It's going to give them information like we do on the Lakeshore about services here. In Kent County, it's going to have organizations that are in the Kent County area, so it's very relevant to their community. But yes, we're very excited. We've had 2 publications go out. We're getting phone calls. People, more and more people want it. They want to expand more. So we're really excited. We're excited to get the information. We still have the same hometown flavor, local writers. We stay away from all the politics, stuff like that. We want this paper to be something people want to pick up, enjoy reading, have fun, and get some good information that's really relevant to the community.
Every senior fair I go to, we always have these, and people are always excited. I always hear how wonderful it is. It comes out every other month in the odd number months, so it just came out in January. The next one will be out in March, and we already have most of that all done. We work very far ahead on that. But it's a really great publication, and what I think is important to note is that the writers are volunteers, and we have this amazing photographer, Glenn, right, who does the cover photography, and he's won awards for that. But our writers are really amazing, and the copy editor, and they're volunteers. I mean, there's very few people who get paid for it. So if you haven't found this, you need to. It's at grocery stores, in all your libraries, and doctors' offices, and restaurants, and all kinds of things. And we're running out of time, but I can't say enough about this. I write for it too, but that's not why it's great. It's just really a positive piece, and some really amazing things in here, and a great variety of things. So we've got about a minute or less left. So anything last minute you want to remind us about the companion care program? And now she's telling me 30 seconds, so it'll have to be quick.
Well, we do have the PERS systems, the personal emergency response systems, that, extra set of eyes and ears when nobody is there. That's so they can push a button. If they need help,
fallen out, can't get up. But this is like on steroids, this one.
We set those up, we service it, we help guide, train them how to use them. They're great systems for when somebody cannot be there. So if you have a companion, and they're there a couple hours a week, the rest of the time on their own, they have an emergency response system.
All right, so we'll quickly give you information on how you can find out about any of this by calling Mike. His direct line is 231-733-3530, 733-3530. If you can't remember that, you can always call 211. They know very well how to get a hold of us at Senior Resources. We're thankful that you joined us today. Hope you learned a lot about these great programs, and we'll talk to you next month. Thanks.
Thank you.